James Ham. That's James Ham. I'm Kyle Mads. We're sponsored by Jiffy Lube. John behind the glass. And I want to talk about this question I sent you last night because I think it's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
At least it is for me. I hope it's interesting for you. And we'll get to your calls on the Elk Grove Kia talk line, 916-909-1320, 916-909-1320. Daniel, I see you there. Hang on 1 second. Okay. To start this exercise, who are the Kings' 5 best dudes? Sabonis, 1.
Today, as of today.
As of right now.
Today. Okay. Sabonis,
1. Levine, 2.
Okay. Yep.
In no order. No
order makes sense. Yeah.
Sabonis, 1. Levine, 2. Keegan?
Yep.
I would put him in there.
Yep.
DeMar's in there.
Yep.
Are we going Keon Ellis?
I'm going Malik Monk.
Yeah, Monk.
Yeah,
that's the 5 best. Okay. So Malik Monk, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Keegan Murray, Domantas Sabonis. That's our 5. So that's the 5 guys we're talking about when I say the Kings' 5 best dudes. It's Monk, LaVine, DeRozan, Murray, Sabonis. Okay. That's established for this exercise. I don't want to really argue about that. That's just where we're at. Okay. If you have a different 4th or 5th person, you can include them in your brain for this. Would you rather have those 5 dudes, and we'll start with Oklahoma City, or Oklahoma City's 7 best bench dudes? So you can have Monk, LaVine, DeRozan, Murray, Sabonis, or Alex Caruso, Cason Wallace, Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins, AJ Mitchell, Kenrich Williams, and Jalen Williams. Because I think I'm going with the Thunder's bench dudes.
The other Jalen Williams. So this isn't the
J Will, not J Dub.
Yeah,
J Will, the Arkansas Jalen Williams, not the All-Star.
I mean, I think I'm going Kings just because of the high-end talent.
Okay.
Although I think that group of players can fit and can win a lot of games.
That's okay. And that's where, when I was watching the Thunder and watching Mark Daigneault last night, here's some AJ Mitchell for you. Hey, we're just going to start Cason Wallace. Let's just see how this goes. When I was watching them do that last night, and I know Cason Wallace started last night, but I put him in this group because he typically doesn't start.
Yeah.
I think those dudes go really well together. And I think it's so much easier to start building a foundation around guys like that than it would be with the Kings 5 guys. You're right. The high-end talent is better. And if you put the 5 best Thunder bench guys against those 5 Kings, the 5 Kings probably win. But I think when you start talking team building, and we've already talked about this some on this station, how cumbersome Zach LaVine's contract is.
Yeah.
What's DeMar DeRozan's value? What are you doing with Keegan Murray? Is Domantas Sabonis a player who's going to be here? And if he is, what kind of value are you going to get with his contract? I think there are so many question marks there. There's question marks with the contract, with some of the contracts. There's question marks with the fit. I think if you just have those 7 Thunder bench dudes, it's like, hey, here's a really nice foundation, specifically defensively. There's some guys who will take and make threes. Cool. Now what do we need to add to that? I would rather have to add to that group than figure out whatever the hell the Kings have to figure out with this group.
No, I'm with you. I would also say, like, if I want to flip this exercise on its head a little bit.
Please do.
Like, if we line up the 5 that we said, I actually would take Alex Caruso over Malik Monk.
Yeah.
Cason Wallace, I would not take over Zach LaVine just because Zach LaVine is an elite scorer, right? Isaiah Joe, again, I'm not taking Isaiah Joe or Aaron Wiggins over DeMar DeRozan, and I'm not taking Kenrich Williams or Jalen Williams.
Yeah, like I said, pound for pound, it's not.
Yeah.
But the talent.
But there are players here that I would not only that, but we can get into a different discussion later about Cason Wallace or Andrew Nembhard. But I think that there is, like, the Kings should be looking at these teams and going, okay, number 1, how do I emulate that? Number 2, is there a way that 1 or 2 of these players don't fit their long-term plan? And that's where I'm kind of like, okay, like, how can I get in here? And
I would any of them.
Yeah,
they all fit a little bit different roles, but just the type of player the Kings need.
Yeah,
and they've already been in. I thought Anthony Slater's answer today. I asked him, Anthony Slater, who's covering the Oklahoma City Thunder for The Athletic / the New York Times. But he does, of course, Kings and Warriors stuff out here during the regular season. I asked him about Case and Wallace and how you take a top 10 pick and get him to buy into the coming off the bench, defense, cutting, shooting threes. How do you get him to buy into that? And he basically just said, this is the culture they've established.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Presti has been establishing this culture for 2 decades now, or a decade and a half. And this is what you do when you come to Oklahoma City, and there's an understanding of that. I think if you get more players like that in the building, and we talked about this the other day, like the priority of finding the right players,
mm-hmm.
I think more than the skill sets, more than is Isaiah Joe better than player X? Maybe not pound for pound fundamentally between the lines, but if you can add a player who just comes from that background,
mm-hmm.
saw with Jake LaRavia. Different culture in Memphis, but that hard-nosed, you're going to fly around defensively, you're going to be unselfish on offense, you're going to go in and you're going to try and grab every rebound, you're going to dive for every loose ball. Like, you see that in the way Jake LaRavia plays. If you can get a player from Oklahoma City, or we'll talk about the Pacers in a second, or from the Pacers where, hey, they know that's the style of basketball that they know, I think that's so important.
Yeah, so I've had plenty of conversations with people around the team, and one of the things that stands out to me is that exact thing. We, the team right now is really, really focused on trying to build that exact identity.
Mm-hmm.
A team that represents the community, a team that is blue collar, a team that plays hard each and every night, that can basically go 500 just by showing up every night and giving 100% effort every single minute they're on the court.
Yep.
And that's something that they're trying to do right now. It's part of the Doug Christie mantra. It's also part of the Scott Perry mantra. They're hoping to build a culture like this. And you got to stick with it. That's the biggest issue here. Like for me, Sam Presti's been there forever. Kevin Pritchard has been in Indiana forever. These coaches have been around these teams for, a couple of years now. And they've been allowed to grow and build this brand of basketball that each of these teams embrace.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the first step for the Kings. We talk about finding the point guard. We talk about finding the head of the snake and all that stuff. Realistically, this team didn't play hard every night.
Nope.
And that was the case under Mike Brown, and it was the case under Doug Christie.
Yep.
And it didn't matter how many times Doug had a players only meeting, a coaches only meeting, a starters only meeting, like whatever. They didn't play. There were certain nights where you're just like, throw your hands up and like, hey, look, there are a lot of people here in this building at home that spent a lot of money to be here.
Yeah.
And you're acting like you don't care.
Mm-hmm.
You don't care about the money that they spent.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe money doesn't mean anything to you, but that family of 4 is $600 into this night.
Yeah.
And, and they still haven't got out of the parking garage for $35 or whatever.
And this might be the only game they go to all year.
And it might be the first time they've ever gone to a game.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
And I'm sure this happened. Family of 4, we'll just say family of 4.
Yep.
Mom, dad, brother, sister. They go to a Kings game. Mom and dad, Kings fans, are trying to make their kids Kings fans, and you picked last year's Indiana game to go to, where the Kings just punted, like from the opening tip.
Yeah,
that's not going to make anybody fall in love with basketball, and I kind of think that's the mantra that Doug Christie is preaching.
Well, yeah, that, and like I had asked him about their home and road record, and he actually snapped at me and said, "Hey, no, what's my record at home?" And I'm like, well, like, I got to be honest, that doesn't matter. Your team's record at home, like, yeah, but what is my record at home? Well, okay, you're above 500. I'll give you that, Doug. I get it. But the fact is, your players didn't take the first half of the season seriously and got thumped on their home court way too often. This always brings me back to like a conversation I had with Scott Moak. And Scott Moak told me that they understand that the basketball will, there's ebbs and flows, especially in Sacramento, of good basketball and bad basketball. But it's their job as a staff, as a crew, to create a unique individual experience that you understand that there are hundreds of people in that building every single night that have never been to a game, that have spent so much of their hard-earned money to get there and are so excited to be there. And you need to think of that every single moment of the game, every timeout, every little thing that you're doing on the court. It is to impress somebody and to leave them with a feeling that they, whether the team won or lost, they had a really good time. And that's something that stands out. But I also, at some point, the team has to respect that as well. And I don't think they have over the last couple of years.
Doug went 14-10 at home, just for the record.
Yeah, I think at that point, I think he was 13-9.
Finished,
something like that.
Yeah, finished with 4 straight losses to the Bulls, Bucks, Celtics, and Thunder. Beat the Blazers, lost to the Nuggets and Clippers, beat the Suns, and of course lost in the play-in game to the Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah.
Oof. A game that looked like they quit in, by the way.